I'm missing a couple of pieces, right? I want to always look at an animal from its interior aspect, right? So if this is the rack, this is the fat cap, and I can't actually see the detail of its structure. But if I turn it over, there's ribs and bones and all sorts of stuff, right? So if I have an animal, a lamb, right? This silly piece in my hand happens to be the shoulder. Let me reach over here. So if I've got bones here, and I've got actually it sort of goes like this, and I've got ribs, be like that. Imagine it's the mirror image. What I've got is loin in here, right? So all the lumbar portion of the animal, right? No ribs, maybe one rib right there, and the top of the pelvis is here, right? There's the bony end of the pelvis, just like when you feel where your pelvis ends here, it ends right there. So that's where they make the cut to separate the leg from the loin. The loin includes all the vertebrae that don't have any ribs, and a bit of the abdominal wall. This is the rack, and because it's been chined, meaning the spine has been removed, we would call this a hotel rack, right? So it's just ready to cut into chops. You can see the really smaller, leaner, sort of prettier loin end, right? And this is the spot where they would do all the grading, right? The division between the loin and the rack. So they'd look at this and they'd take a measurement of the thickness of the cap, the size of the eye, the marbling present. It's a little hard to see because most of this is cut with a saw, so you end up with sort of debris on the surface. But if I scrape it, you can see how much marbling is present.
Do they grade it on the 13th?
They grade it. They make that cut right there, but they would tend to separate right through the whole of the animal with one band cut saw. Take a whole animal, both sides of it, and go zip, and run it through the bandsaw. And so sometimes you see this cut not as accurately placed as it might do if it was done with a knife. But that's the point where they would do the grading. If you count up in the ribs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ribs. There's a little bit of rib stuck to there that would otherwise be in the chuck. And here you see the shoulder blade, because the shoulder blade, let me orientate this correctly, right? So the shoulder blade, this is the head up here. The shoulder blade is buried in this little slot right here, right? The remainder of the shoulder blade, and you can actually see the shape, the sort of T shape of the shoulder blade where it would sit, and then it continues into the next muscle group. So that, right? This is the same eye of muscle that goes here, right? So all these pieces actually abut one another and share parts, right? Parts continue from one into another. But in general, because this is closer to the limb or to the head, it's going to be tougher than this stuff in the middle because it doesn't get a whole lot of exercise. And then you get closer to the ankle and it's all sinew, right? If you look at this, that's just pure sinew and no muscle. So the closer you get to the extremities of the animal, the tougher it's going to get. And about the only part we're really missing is the loin section, right? But they actually fit back together like a puzzle if you sort of care to do so. If you can get a whole side of an animal and it's all right side, you can put it back in the cheeks. It's kind of fun, right? Totally. This is the chuck, and it's made up. They've sort of sectioned it, and they've removed the bones of the arm, and you can see heavy bits of sinew that attached around the joint that held the shoulder blade and the arm bone. Right? So the arm bone extends down this way, and there's a shank, like a foot on it. And this is remember when we cut open our shoulder quads and we found a bit of connective tissue like this and the heart and the soft side, right? What was that called? What was that piece of the chuck called?
Flat iron and the...
the flat iron, heart, and the soft side. Part of the what?
Cottage?
The quad. The quad, right? So that's the muscles on the outside between the skin and the shoulder blade, right? This part on beef that looks like the same muscle that we pulled out of the pork roast, right? It continues on through this muscle here. These two muscles sort of are the same one. They attach like this with a neck button, separate them. So this is that eye muscle that goes up the neck and attaches to the base of the skull, right? So this muscle, if it were beef, would be called the roll. That would be the quad, but the whole thing would be the chuck, right? This is a boneless lamb shoulder, otherwise known as chuck. Pretty simple. Maybe not that simple. It's a giant jigsaw puzzle. But they just took out all the bones for us, really clean, really simple, and they did a great job. And they actually pulled the muscle off of the bone, rather than try to cut it with a knife, which is much cleaner, as you can see. So we'll try to make something yummy with that. Can you take that over to that team so they can play with it as well? So this is our rack, and we'll cut this next. But in general, what we want is this eye of muscle right here, right? And it continues right the way along the spine to there. So we're going to try to make best use of this. We'll remove what's not all that edible, right? All this fatty bit and the bones in between, the meat in between the ribs. And we'll take out this last little sort of cartilaginous bit of the shoulder blade as it peters out. Okay. But first, we're going to do our leg. If I turn it over, I always want to sort of work from the interior aspect because I can see the bones and everything that I'm doing, whereas this is just a smooth, fatty surface. It's really difficult to see anything. So always work from the interior to the exterior.